Well, we are continuing in this very detailed description of a millennial temple that's coming. Um, Again, I have a link below to a 3D animation showing you what this is describing. So you might want to take a look at that. And remember that we are talking about God's earthly abode here, that God's home on earth is what we're looking at. And it really answers the question, will God ever return? Will God be with his people? Will God dwell with us? And the answer, of course, is yes. And God is giving us the blueprints for the home that he's going to live in. So we continue this with an outline, very simple outline today, verses 1 through 14. Our chambers in the outer court of the temple, and then verses 15 through 20 just briefly give us overall dimensions of the whole temple complex, which is really kind of outstanding or incredible, the size of this. So let's look at verses 1 through 14. Verses 1 through and 2 talk about this complex that's building that's north and south of the temple. It's just outside the temple, so there's a space between the temple and these buildings. And there's, again, 3 stories of rooms that are provided here. Appear to be rooms that are used by the priests in the execution of their duties. In verse 6, it describes these rooms as being terraced. They had no pillars like the pillars of the courts. So it says the upper chambers were set back from the ground upward. So we're looking at a terrace here where each successive story is narrower than the story below it. Verses 13 through 14 tell us why we have these. They are to be the place where the priests will be eating and dressing for ministry in the temple. So, the priests share in the offering, and except for the burnt offering, which is totally consumed on the altar, but the priests share in the other offerings. So this is where they will be eating and preparing themselves, dressing for ministry in the temple. We get to verses 15 through the end of the chapter, then we see the dimensions of the temple enclosure. And it's a perfect square. It's 500, what it says, reeds on each side. So what's a reed? We don't know what a reed is. Scholars tell us that a reed is about 5,100 feet or a mile, just basically about a mile on each side. So if we look at Mount Moriah today, the Temple Mount is nowhere near this size. So this is really assuming that some topographic changes have happened in Jerusalem. And sure enough, Zechariah chapter 14, verses 9 to 11, describe topographic changes that are going to be made when Jesus returns. It's also going to be a series of earthquakes in Jerusalem during the tribulation, which will also contribute to these topographic changes. So again, we're shown here some amazing detail of what's going to be an amazing place. And by way of application, find significance for us in the church age, is we're reminded in these verses that God is not needlessly exact nor needlessly detailed. Everything God does is purposeful and has a point. And here he's providing us with these exact dimensions so that when they are exactly fulfilled, just as he says they are here, we will know that it's all exactly as he said it would be, that he is completely faithful. We'll be, I think, some of us, maybe most of us, embarrassed that we have at some points in our lives doubted the faithfulness of God when we see how faithful he has been to fulfill each one of these detailed prophecies. So enjoy your reading as you plow through Ezekiel chapter 42 today. Again, it's okay to skim and take a look at the 3D animation of this chapter in the link below.